Let's build a business based on H to H, not B2B, but human-to-human sales and marketing automation. A human approach is the only one that sells.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, whatever time you're listening us. Today, I have an interesting guest with me, Ethan Coppit. It is now, I was actually, it was announced today or like this week, you were promoted to the head of product of CPQ, or rather group product manager, which is fantastic. Ethan, we met at the Inbound. You were at one of the CPQ sessions, which I really enjoyed. We're gonna talk about, what CPQ, what is the product there, but also a bit your story. Ethan, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here, and thanks for having me on, Bart.
So, Ethan, first of all, congratulations, you've been moved. So tell us a little bit, because I do like your presentation style at the Inbound. You gave us a little bit of insights into, you created this legacy quote, isn't it? So you were on a mission to help businesses to quote and sell better inside the HubSpot. Tell us a little bit more story, how you ended up with HubSpot.
Yeah, so I actually came to HubSpot by an acquisition. I was working on a startup when I was in college, and a couple of years after college, and we got to a point where we were looking to raise some more money, and one of the people we were looking to raise money from was HubSpot. And actually, we were a pretty early AI company. I think we were too early, unfortunately. We were building an AI assistant for field salespeople. So we looked at email data and CRM data and ERP data, and then we would basically make recommendations to account executives and account managers who were in biotechnology or medical device. And we would say here's the accounts that you should visit. Here's the things that you should sell. Are you aware that somebody, for example, purchased a machine from you, but isn't purchasing any reagents from you? That's a little weird. Where are they getting their reagents from, right? So we were doing a lot of that stuff. And, we went out to raise a second round of funding. And one of the people we talked to was HubSpot. And HubSpot said, hey, we're kind of building an AI products group. And this was years ago. This was 7 years ago. And they said, why don't we just, buy your company and you can come work here. And so that's what we did. And so I worked on account-based marketing at HubSpot. That was my first big project. And then I worked on that for about a year. And then after that, I went into Sales Hub and worked on, at the time, ironically, a team that was called CPQ, which owned quotes and the product library. But it was, it was a single team. It wasn't a whole group then. And actually, quotes in the product library were built before I got there. So they're one of the oldest tools at HubSpot, which a lot of people don't know. They think they kind of learn that HubSpot has quotes and then think that it's something that is recent because they didn't know about it. But actually, HubSpot's had quotes for 9 years. And so anyway, I came to that team, and I was working on the quotes product. And then the story that I'm sure you're referencing from Partner Days, basically, I started working on quotes 6 years ago, and then I actually got pulled away maybe not 6 years ago. I probably started working on it 5 years ago. And then I got pulled away for about 3 years to go work on other parts of Commerce Hub. So invoicing and accounting integrations and a growth team. And so, about 9 months ago, 6 months ago, I kind of got pulled back by the head of Commerce Hub, and she said, hey, I need someone to lead the CPQ group. And, you have relevant experience, and you're an ostensibly smart guy. I'd like you to take it over. And so that's what that's what I've been doing for the last 6 months. So, we actually have 5 teams in CPQ now. So it's a heavy area of investment for HubSpot. HubSpot is spending, I don't even know how many millions of dollars a year, right, on R&D for CPQ, which has been really fun for me because, I told you, when I first started working on CPQ, it was just one team. And it was, because it was an older product, it had so many users. So it was very difficult to work on, right? When you've only got one team and you're working on a product that has 25,000 monthly users, it's very difficult to make any sort of changes. It's very difficult to roll things out. So our pace was really slow. And so it's been a joy to kind of come back to the team and be able to have a lot of investment and, have better solutions to problems that I've been aware of for years. I was looking back at an old vision doc and I was like, man, we really need to support price books. But that was I wrote that doc 5 years ago, right? And it's only now that we're starting to really dig into the meat of, harder problems like price books and more advanced approvals and rules engines and stuff like that.
No, this is very fascinating story. I think, this is what I want to say to any kind of users who are using HubSpot is like behind every product there are people. It's not like, HubSpot made this or that. Ethan, you made that happen. You were part of the team. Then they obviously you've been promoted, which is again congratulations. And then moving on, as a community, I strongly believe in the kind of community approach, like giving access, giving also a space that we can give the feedback. That obviously CPQ requires lots of changes and so on, but we're in a good path. So just as a kind of explanation, I'd like to because maybe not everyone is aware, CPQ stands for configure, price, and quote. And in many sales environments, the complex sales requires quite a complex quotation systems with tiering, pricing, and so on. And obviously, up for now, HubSpot offer pretty much static way of presenting the line items and so on, while now we have more options in there. So that's just kind of my explanation. Would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think sometimes when I'm explaining CPQ, it's good to explain it with a story, which is that, CPQ is quoting software. That's what it is. It's quoting software, right? But to your point, it's kind of more complex quoting software. And however, like HubSpot is trying a different angle, and we're trying to kind of make the complex a little bit more simple. But if it's like, you like a lot of people don't really understand like the difference between the quoting software and CPQ. And CPQ really emerged, probably 20 years ago as a software category, and it emerged out of like manufacturing and telecommunications, right? Where like, for me to quote you a robot is really complicated, or for me to quote you a bunch of telecommunications, measurement technology is really complicated, right? Like I can't just make a quote. Oftentimes it's based on like what inventory I have available and how different components fit together, and what platforms are you on and where are you located, right? So there's all this complexity, and that's what like CPQ software started out as, was like a way of managing that complexity. And then what's happened over the course of the past 20 years is a lot of other segments outside of manufacturing and telecommunications, right, have said, well, I also have a complex quoting process, and it's not as hard as that, but it's still pretty hard, right? And so that's why you've seen like awesome vendors like, Deal Hub, and before them, things like Steel Brick, right, that came about to try to kind of bring that capability to other folks. And so like Deal Hub, for example, mostly focuses on like, SaaS, as I understand it, right? They don't focus necessarily on manufacturing or telecommunications, but they still offer many of the same capabilities with just a more, different industry focus. And so now I think CPQ has become like this broader category. It kind of means more than it used to mean, right? A lot of the times people come to me and they say, well, I need a CPQ, but what they mean is I need a quoting solution, right? And so I think the market is like still going through that shift. And HubSpot's trying to really be like a new CPQ, right? If you tell me you want a CPQ, I don't want to tell you, no, you don't need a CPQ, you need a quoting system. I want to say, no problem. Talk to me about like what sort of like how your business works and how we can enable you to close deals faster, whether that's by helping you quote faster, helping you, allow people to make purchases, for example, like to adjust quotes by themselves, right? Like how can we're trying to shift the narrative away from like, how do we control reps and make sure that orders can be delivered, right? Which is very much that like manufacturing, telecommunications angle, towards how do we help people close deals faster using their quoting software, right? How do we accelerate their closing process? And it's not that we don't want to, put those guardrails in place. It's that we just don't want those guardrails to be like the thing that you focus on, right? Like it's all about managing complex configuration. Who cares how easy it is for the rep? Who cares how long it takes? It's like, no, right? We're trying to provide you that same security and guardrails, but also say, how can we actually use this tool to accelerate a business and make them go faster? So I think it's actually very similar to CRM, right? It's like people used to say like, well, CRM is for storing customer data, and it doesn't really matter how hard it is for the rep to use. And now what we're saying is, well, that's not true, right? The CRM should be a tool for accelerating the business. And that's what we're trying to do for CPQ too, right? So it's a very kind of normal HubSpot story.
No, that this is awesome, and I think one of like existing HubSpot users are gonna love the capabilities that you built in, and I particularly love the attachments. Oh my goodness, lots of sales processes are complex and it requires attachment and signing approval, which is like kind of awesome for me already. It's just that simple thing. But also tell us a little bit of AI. Obviously, AI becomes like buzzword, and also some of the businesses are using it. We can see the big brands are like, especially within the quoting system and proposals. Yeah, you can create your own proposal. In fact, in our own agency, yes, we use the insights from chats and other recordings just to have a little bit of insights into how we're gonna present that quote/proposal really. and then that built. This is within consultancy, obviously. So now, what is the take on AI and closing agent, for example, but also like what's the future like? How do you envision that tool to be, even more helpful for sales reps?
Yeah, I mean, for the record, AI is pretty buzzwordy, right? And I like, so Nicholas Holland, he used to run Marketing Hub, and now he runs kind of all AI initiatives at HubSpot. And I had a really nice conversation with him where he said, hey, and he was actually like talking about our reps should be, like how HubSpot reps should be selling AI. And he said, if you try to sell AI, oftentimes you sound dumb because like it's the classic situation of like trying to sell a hammer, but you're not even asking about what somebody needs to hit with hammers or if they even need a hammer, right? And so I think that the way we approach AI, and I think the way that I think HubSpot in general is doing this, but this is definitely true for my group, is like what we're first trying to do is figure out what problems our customers have, and then we're trying to say, hey, is there ways to use AI to solve this problem? And we do spend a lot of extra energy trying to answer that second question of can we use AI to solve this problem? Because so many of us are unfamiliar building with AI that we have to spend extra energy thinking about how we would use AI to solve this problem. And so, like you mentioned, Closing Agent, right? I'll reference two AI features in CPQ, but what Closing Agent does is it's kind of like our customer agent, right? It sits on top of the quote and then it answers questions about the quote. And it's like, well, why did we make this thing? And it's like, we made this thing because we hear a lot of businesses and sales reps saying the thing that's slowing down my deal process are simple questions that like you don't really need a human to answer. Like, do you really need a human to answer, well, what would it look like if I switched from monthly to annual pricing? Or do you really need a human to give you a PDF copy of the SOC 2 report? Or do you really need a human to explain the warranty clause or what the payment terms are on invoices, right? These are just like really simple questions, but that actually slows the deal down because then they have to email the AE. Oh, the AE is on vacation. Now the AE is, they thought the deal was right at the end, but now this person's talking about changing pricing, right? And so you can almost think of the closing agent as like an assistant for that sales rep in the last mile of the sale to help them answer some of those questions. And then if it can't answer the question, get a meeting on the books or refer to the sales reps immediately so we can get the deal closed. So the idea is like, it's not using AI for no reason. It's using AI for a very specific scenario. And the other AI feature I'd reference is like you can now edit quotes with Copilot, which, transparently, like I'm sure that you will find plenty of places where it doesn't work the way we expect or it's not perfect. But I'm really fired up about, using Breeze, right? Like the AI editing to edit quotes because it's a little bit faster in certain cases. It's slower in other cases, for the record. And also, for example, one of the things that keeps me up at night is like, how do we create a really good mobile quoting experience? Because like configuring line items on mobile is going to be almost impossible. But if you think about it, like creating a quote with AI and then editing it with AI in a chat interface, that's a perfect, kind of mobile UX, right? And so both of these things are like, we want to, see problems that we may have and try to introduce AI solutions. And then we want to make those AI solutions, good and valuable, right? Like Breeze is included. You don't have to pay extra for it if you're doing any sort of editing with quotes. Yeah. And then for Closing Agent, we're not monetizing it yet until we feel like it's really solving a lot of problems for customers. So we're trying to put these solutions out in the market and iterate on them and make them a lot more valuable. And also just like, expand the use cases and see if that unlocks new kind of value that we didn't foresee. Right, because we just aren't as used to building with AI yet.
And I think you said really valid points in generally regarding the AI. Like for all of our listeners, we are doing this podcast just for you, just to have a little bit of insights and see like what is going on behind, not only HubSpot but business development and using AI with specific scenario. Ethan, I think this is the really really key here because everyone is trying to use AI for like really everything, and it's not the way. It's just specific scenario within your business, and this case quote and helping that specific problems and speed up the processes. I think is massive advantage because the time to quote and time to send, time to respond is critical. And I think now within new generations, everyone will expect quick answers. When we had a time in the old times, the little like books like with like I don't know yellow pages in the UK, so you can just open up and just phone and just wait for the answers. Now internet speed up the process by saying you can send the message and then they reply. But well, now they've got instant answers. So this is kind of shift towards like very static to like even more dynamic approach.
Yeah, I mean, like for me as, a consumer even, right? Like I'm buying auto insurance right now in the United States,
Yeah.
and I requested a bunch of quotes, and like now I'm getting like calls from reps that are trying to sell me on these quotes. But I don't really want like many of the questions that I have are pretty simple, right? Like, can I like how would the price change if I reduce this piece of coverage, or like, do I really need this piece of coverage? What does this actually cover? Right. And I'm a busy person. Like I'm here with you. Like I don't have time to field, meetings from sales reps all day about auto insurance, right? Like I just want to get my questions answered and purchase the insurance. And I think that that's the kind of underlying trend, right, that we're trying to enable businesses to get on top of, right, is like the people who are able to answer my questions quickly are going to get my business, and the people who are asking me to take time out of my day so they can figure out what my questions are going to lose my business.
So tell us, final points. Tell us a bit like what's the future looks like. Obviously, you've been, quite a lot of new, you've got more work to do, group to manage, and then lots of changes. And where do you think that tool will go to? I think I really valid your point that obviously, if you're proposing all of your efforts to everyone, it won't work, obviously. So then CPQ tool is not exactly, it's not for everyone, but it's for specific type of scenarios and people and so on. So maybe tell us a little bit more like what exactly are you building for whom, and who can take advantage, obviously. And still remember, the time of this recording, that CPQ tool is still in beta, so this is still like ongoing improvement.
Yeah, I think that, our initial target market, just to say it out loud, is we want to focus on folks who have like 20 employees to 200 employees right now.
Yeah.
So still a relatively small focus in the world of CPQ, right? And we're doing that on purpose because, to your point, right, we can't solve everything for everyone, or we'll solve nothing for no one, right? And so we're focused on, slightly smaller businesses, although transparently, many of our early users are larger than that, which makes sense. And then we're also focused on folks who are selling software and services. Those are kind of our two initial industry focuses. So again, we actually do have a lot of early customers who are doing, telecommunications or manufacturing or construction services or other things, but are kind of, I think about it almost as like a bullseye, right? Which is like there's the people you're really focused on, and then you capture people who are outside of that focus area, just because like many features are useful to everyone, right? But so that's our initial focus, and I think what you're going to see is that we like our focus, like I said earlier on, is really helping the our users close deals faster. And so a lot of the features that I want to build are directly connected to that. So, and I kind of think about features, even if they're like some of those legacy CPQ features, in that lens, right? So let's use price books as an example, which is like a feature that a lot of folks want us to build, and I want us to build. That's basically, that's what that allows you to do, is assign prices to certain categories of customers or prospects, right? So folks in the UK get a different price than folks in the US, or my resellers get a different price than my direct customers, right? And you could say, oh well, this is all about just like managing my financial rules, and I don't think about it that way. What I think about it is the way I think about it, right, is like your sales reps need to sell to those people, and then they need prices calculated accurately and fast, right? And so what you're doing is you're actually enabling your salespeople to quote faster, right? Because they don't have to ask questions, they don't have to do VLOOKUPs on different prices, right? It's like bang, right? I say that Bart is the customer, Bart gets assigned the price, I can add any discounts I want, and I move on, right? And so every new feature that we're going to build is going to come from that lens of like, how does this make the customer? How does this help the the person who is selling something sell faster? So other features that we want to build are things like allowing the recipient of a quote to do things to it. So like to change it, to put in information, which is then stored in the CRM, to reassign who the signatory is. And it's like, well, why are we doing all these things? And it's like, we're doing them because, what's the alternative, right? Which is that they email the sales rep recalls the quote, republishes the quote, and now we're taking a lot longer to get the deal closed, right? So I think you're going to see us work on a lot of features that help accelerate the deal process. And then also making the system a lot more customizable. Like you should be able to customize every part of a quote template, right? You already can customize basically everything about our quote approval system, right? And so I think there's this balance between having like a smart system that has good defaults and, also balancing that with, you need to be able to customize everything. And then I think, final thing I'll say here, and I know a lot of partners are really fired up about this, is that like, because quoting has not been something HubSpot's invested a ton in the past, there's all this kind of undone work to make things like line items and products and quotes more first class. Well, that's what a lot of people say, right? Like having the same type of property types that are available to other objects, having the same sort of features inside of the CRM in terms of how they integrate with, index pages or workflows or whatever it is, right? So there's a whole other kind of set of foundational work that we have to do to make sure that as a HubSpot user, you can realize the value of having a CPQ in the CRM, because the CPQ objects perform like CRM objects and are deeply integrated into the CRM. So, yeah, I think that, that's where our focus is right now. I'm actually not trying to, I'm trying to build something really wonderful for that target market before we try to just massively scale the number of people, the size of businesses we can support. That's where I want to work with our partners to say, hey, how can we work with our partners to satisfy somebody who has a really complex use case? Or how can we even drive them to another CPQ, like a Deal Hub or a Mobile Force or a Quote Happily, right? So, and we'll get to those larger use cases, but I want to do a really good job with the initial target market first and take it one
Ethan,
step at a time.
It's fantastic. Thank you very much for all of the insights, and we definitely encourage everyone to test it, to get hands-on. I really enjoy the experience of creating the quotes now far better than it used to be. So this is just me having a hands-on experience of just 2 days of working on that tool. It's in beta. We're going to link up all of the resources into this podcast series just to have a little bit of tests and listen, Ethan. Thank you very much for your time and thanks for sharing all of the insights, and looking forward to have more features published soon.
Yeah, we'll be. I mean, we're shipping every 2 weeks, so it's going to be quick.
Whoa.
And then the other thing I would say too is, please don't be a stranger. Like if you have feedback, I mean, before we started recording, Bart, you gave me some feedback. Please give me feedback. I'm sure that there's, missing areas, and that's what helps us prioritize the things that people want, is you telling us that you need them, right? And so, we won't build everything that everybody asks for, but I will always respond to you. I will always, read it. I will always tell you if that's on the roadmap or not. So don't be a stranger, and please, do give us the feedback, because you're right. Behind every product is a team of people, and it's not that many people, right? There's only about 30 or 40 of us. So we're a real team.
Let's build a business based on H to H, not B2B, but human to human sales and marketing automation. A human approach is the only one that sells.